It's a big world out there. There's no doubt about it. If you went and want to fly around the globe, it'll take you some time. But because of technology, especially in the area of communications, that really physical big world got really small. And we can thank a lot of our modern technology benefits, the things that we take for granted every day, thanks to the military. Radar would have never been developed. And radar is a very important tool for the airline industry and for determining weather and predicting weather. Another good example would be GPS. The GPS unit in your car or your handheld unit, again, was development because of U.S. military. But more importantly, for the vast majority of us today, one of the greatest things that we use on a daily basis and never give a second thought to is the internet. The internet was developed in the 1960s by the U.S. government, the U.S. military, because they wanted a secure method of communicating messages that couldn't be cracked. And so, even though war is a horrible thing, some of the great things that we have today as consumers have derived from military spending. So with that said, I'm R.W. Gural, and for me, I live in Canada, and what I'm trying to do is build a career path as a writer, a speaker, a video creator, a thought leader. And if you don't believe me, that's what my business cards say. And in Canada, we're very fortunate. We have internet. And a lot of countries have the internet. Now, some countries, unfortunately, don't allow their citizens to have access to the internet. There are those countries that censor what is available to the people of their country on their internet. And what we have is net neutrality. Now, there's something happening in the U.S. you may not be aware of. And net neutrality is on the verge of possibly being dismantled in the U.S. And for a lot of you, you may not consider this to be a relevant thing because I'm outside the U.S., and that's fair. But if you're living in the U.S., it's a major thing that could impact you greatly as somebody who consumes internet content to somebody who's doing internet commerce. So exactly what is net neutrality? And if you're asking yourself that question right now, I do have a definition for you. And it goes something like this. Net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers must treat all data on the internet the same and not discriminate or charge differently by user, content, website, platform, application, type of attached equipment, or method of communication. For instance, under these principles, internet service providers are unable to intentionally block, slow down, or charge money for specific websites and online content. So put in a very simple way is that there's only one pipe, as some commentators put it, that goes into your home or to your business. And in most geographical markets, there may be one or perhaps two internet service providers. So if you're upset with your current internet service provider, there's not a lot of options open to you. It's either you go to a competitor if they exist, or if you're really going to stand up on principle, you disconnect and effectively you no longer participate on the internet. So those are your choices. You're going to see the potential of net neutrality ending in the US. And what that means is that the internet service provider is now going to be in control completely of the rules for what services they're willing to provide you and the pricing that you're going to be paying. So as an example, in Canada, my internet service provider happens to be a cable company. And there are only two competitors in my market. There is a telco and there is a cable company. So those are my choices. I deal with my cable company because I've had a long-standing, good working relationship with them. Now, I pay my cable bill every month, which includes a charge for my internet access, the connection. And I don't complain about my internet service provider because my cable company is doing a very good job. There are increases that come from time to time, but I understand that those increases are required to build the physical plant. In other words, to provide me with that service, that speed, somebody has to pay for that. And obviously it's going to be users like me. But I pay a flat monthly fee for my internet service, and regardless of how little I use it or how much I use it, mind you, there are maximums for your packages, I don't have to worry about the speed of delivery. And that's really important because it doesn't matter whether I'm accessing the website of a local pizza restaurant or a national chain because I want pizza delivered to my home. It doesn't matter which website I go to. It's going to be the same flat fee. Now what happens is if net neutrality is dismantled, the cable companies or the telco companies or your internet service provider is going to be in a position saying, well, we're going to charge you a fixed lower rate to make that connection. In other words, connect the coax cable or the fiber optic to your house or to your business. But then we're going to go and charge you for additional services. So in other words, you want to access your email. Well, there'll be a charge for that. You want to go and access social media like YouTube. Oh, there's going to be a charge for that. Or you want to go and access a particular website or country's websites, foreign content. Well, there's going to be an additional charge for that. So in other words, if you want fast uploading, in other words, you're going to get the same upload speed as your download speed as you're currently purchasing on your packages. You're going to go and have to pay for those. So what will happen, and in fact, there's potentially a major price increase coming through to U.S. consumers of internet services, and that's both people and businesses. Now, the real impact of all of this is going to be on small businesses. So for someone like myself who's trying to build a career as a writer and speaker, one of the major things I decided to do was go and use social media. In other words, start producing videos and uploading them. So if all of a sudden I can't get access to U.S. websites because the U.S. service providers are going to turn down the speed because they don't own that particular website or supply that social media, that's going to put me at a disadvantage. In the U.S., you're going to have a situation, well, let's suppose you have a small grocery chain in a particular state, and they have a website, and right now you get access to it as fast as a national chain. Well, the national chain may be told by its internet service provider, well, you know, if you want us to go and deliver your videos on your website real quickly, you're going to have to pay a fee for that. Well, what happens is if a national chain is going to be paying fees to go and get enhanced delivery of their data content to their consumers, then the smaller operators are going to be in a position where either they're going to have to go and spend that money, which they may or may not have, or they're going to be effectively locked out at competing. So this has got a whole lot of implications. There's also concerns about censorship, and those have been expressed on a number of YouTube videos, so you can check those out. But what I'm encouraging all of you to do in the U.S. Is that this is a really important issue because it is, to a great degree, freedom of access for you to get information and also communication. And that may be stripped away. For all practical purposes, the internet today in most industrialized countries, it's become a necessity, just like your landline telephone going back to the 30s and 40s and the 50s. You know, you didn't matter who you called locally, it was the same fixed monthly charge for access, and everybody was entitled to get access. So that's important, and for all of you, December the 14th in this year could be a watershed moment in the U.S. That's when your legislators are going to go and vote on dismantling net neutrality. And if they succeed in doing that, you're going to see probably very shortly the implications of that. There's going to be potentially the reduction of speed for a lot of websites. Internet searches for specific websites may not come up whatsoever. So if you're running a small business, if you're running a medium-sized business, there you are definitely in a position now where the impact could be extremely negative on you. So I encourage you to go and, in the U.S., watch the videos on YouTube about net neutrality. There's some really good ones out there. There's some humorous ones out there. But what they're trying to do is point out to the fact that something that the vast majority of people in a whole lot of countries around the world take for granted, other countries don't have that luxury. And so you don't want to take a big step back or multiple step backs in your communication and your ability to get access to data. So I encourage you to go and watch these videos. There are all types of actions you can take that these videos suggest, from contacting your local your legislator representatives to the contacting the regulatory body that is in charge of your internet in the U.S. You know, Canada has done something. It's reaffirmed its commitment to net neutrality. So Canadians are tremendously happy, and so are a lot of other countries. They're committing to net neutrality. But also, if the U.S. should go and dismantle net neutrality, it's going to cause a lot of issues for people within the U.S., for small and medium-sized businesses in the U.S., for nonprofit organizations in the U.S., for news organizations. Everybody will be affected, but more importantly also a lot of the ability for U.S. citizens and businesses to communicate beyond the physical U.S. for commerce and for communication and for ideas could potentially be shut down. In other words, you know, at some point this video is going to end, but is it going to end really pleasantly, or is it going to end